Hello again, everyone. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to obtain an ArcGIS license and install it on your machine. This is a multi-part process, which normally I'd assume that many of you know how to install software on your machine, but it has a number of phases and steps that can get confusing, so I want to make sure that I walk you through it. You can feel free to skip this video if you feel confident that you can do this on your own, but just know that if you run into troubles, it's here, and make sure to come back and reference it. There are lots of steps and it can be easy to get lost doing this. Some of you may already have access to ArcGIS, and in that case, it's okay to keep using your existing license. No need to follow the instructions here, unless you need access to specific extensions, such as Spatial Analyst, which you might need in future courses in this specialization. If that's the case, it might be worth following along and getting a license for this course and installing that one on your machine. So we start in the course here, and if I go to week 1 and scroll down, I'll see the Getting Your Copy of ArcGIS reading. And I'll click on that here. And it starts with obtaining an authorization code. That's what you need to do first. So I'm going to click on this link here, go to this page and request your authorization code. And it loads a quick little form. And I need to enter my first and last name and my email address. And if I click the next button here, it gives me my authorization code as well as some instructions to follow. It's also going to send me an email with all this information, including this authorization code here and the rest of the instructions. So you'll have those saved in your email for future reference. The other thing worth noting is that these instructions here are basically the same as the remaining instructions on this page on Coursera. The big difference is that this one pastes your authorization code into the right spot for you. So from here, you can follow along however you like, whatever's most convenient to you. In most cases, you'll be able to skip this first section here, but I recommend that if you're not sure, that you do go check your system requirements at this link on Esri's website. The item here, the second one that asks you to uninstall previous versions of ArcGIS, you can skip that unless you know you have had ArcGIS installed on your machine before. And lastly, this version, or this item here, if necessary, install the Microsoft .NET Framework version 3.5 Service Pack 1 or higher. If you're on Windows 8 or above, Windows 8, 8.1, or Windows 10, you do not need to do that. That comes built into the operating system. So next we need to go activate the authorization code we got. I'm going to click here and I'm going to control click on it so it opens in a new tab. And I have an Esri account, but in this case, I'm going to create a new Esri account so we can follow along together. So I'll click, I need to create a new Esri account. And I'll give it my first name and my last name and my email address. And then I'll click create an account. And now it says, thanks for signing up. An email has been sent to my email address so that I can continue from here. Now I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to save time. I'll do that a few times during this video just since there are so many steps and I don't want to just bore you with every single part of this. So here's the email I received from Esri. You'll receive it to your email address, open it up, and it'll give you instructions to activate your account. At the very bottom of the email here, there's an orange button, activate your account. So I'll click that and it's going to take me to a spot to finish creating my account. So in here, you'll put in some pretty standard information for signing up for an account online, and you will need to put in an address because later on in this license process, you're going to use that in order to look up your order information and license the software. So just make sure that when you put all this information in, you remember what you put, especially if you put an organization as well. When I'm done, I'll go all the way to the bottom and you can browse through the terms and conditions if you like, and then accept the terms and conditions and click create. Then it says, thank you for signing up. Please sign in to continue. So I'll put in my login information and then click sign in. So when we log in for the first time, it asks us for that authorization code we got earlier. That's in your email, but that's also on the page if you left it open where you filled out that form asking for an authorization code. So I'm going to select it here and I'm going to hit Control C on my keyboard, or you can right click and do copy. And I'll move back to the other tab and I'll paste it into that field and I'll click activate ArcGIS. It'll process, and now it's asking you for a version. Let's get the latest version for this course. The videos were developed with it, so they should be accurate according to this version. So I'll click ArcGIS 10.3.1 for desktop. And then it's going to give me a bunch more instructions to work through to install the software. Unfortunately, these instructions still aren't entirely complete, which is part of why we're making this video, is to make sure that you have something that guides you through as much of the process as possible. So if I go down here and scroll down, I can see the software that's available for me to download. There are a lot of items here that you can download and use if you like, but you only need 2 for these courses. The first one is ArcGIS for desktop, and I'll start that download by clicking download here, and it opens a new tab, and it thinks for a little bit, and then it gives me a link to download the file. And you can click here to download your file now, and it starts downloading. The other item to potentially download is ArcGIS Pro. Well, we're not going to use it for the assignments in this course. It's the future of ArcGIS. It's a great piece of software, and I recommend you download it so you can practice with it. These 3 here are extensions. This is a piece of software that lets you read maps in ArcGIS, sort of like Adobe Reader. You don't need it if you have ArcGIS for desktop. And then this one is tutorial data that corresponds to tutorials Esri has in the help documentation. Download that if you want it, but is not required for this course. I have seen situations where when you click the download link on this page, you'll get just a really basic error message with nothing to help you remedy the situation. If you get that, it's probably that your session is having troubles, and you just need to come back to this page here and do a cleared cache reload of the page. And that's something you can do in most browsers by holding down the Control key and hitting the F5 key at the same time. And that clears out everything that's downloaded for the web page and reloads everything from Esri's website. And at that point, your download links should be fresh and you should be able to download the files. So one thing I want to note right off the bat is that ArcGIS only runs on Windows. So if you are running a Mac or Linux or some other machine, you need to install Windows if you want to run ArcGIS. For those of you running a Mac computer, I am attaching a link in the resources for this video lecture that shows you how to install Windows on your Mac. For those of you running Linux or another operating system, I trust that you know how to figure that out yourself or search the web for it. So skipping ahead to when we have the software downloaded and are now ready to install it, I'm now on a machine that doesn't have ArcGIS installed. It'll look a little different than some of the other demos because I'm installing it on a clean virtual computer so that I can demonstrate the full process to you. So here's the installer that I downloaded. Yours will probably come in your downloads folder or wherever you saved it. And I'll just double click it to open it up, and it's going to extract the files first. And so it's just looking for a location to extract the data to. I'll keep the default and click next, and it's going to work on extracting the data. Once it's done, I can leave this box checked to launch the setup program automatically so I don't have to go find it. So I'll do that and then close it. And then now it's asking me to run the installer. And the important thing to note here is you need administrator privileges on the computer you're running on. So some of you who are working on this on maybe a work machine or a machine administered by somebody else, you will need permissions or credentials or whatever you usually need to install software in order to get that installed. On this computer, this account has administrator privileges, so I'll click yes and install the software. For those of you who aren't really familiar with Windows, this is pretty typical Windows installation here. It's using a standard Windows installation, and it's going to tell you it's strongly recommended that you exit all Windows programs before running this setup program. That's really not a big deal. You're better off if you do, but I run installs all the time without doing that. So it's up to you. And next I'll click the next button. And again, you have a license agreement. You'll have to accept it and click next. And we'll just do the complete installation here. Just install everything. If you want, you can go through a custom installation. I'll click next. It asks me where I'd like to install it. I'll leave it in the default location and click next again. And then it's asking me where it should put Python, the programming language it uses to do a lot of its work. And I leave that in the default location as well, unless you have a good reason not to. So I'll click next. And then it asks if you want to participate in their customer experience improvement program. That's up to you. It's going to anonymously send some data to Esri to help improve the software. I'll leave that checked for this installation. Up to you. It won't affect how your software performs. And then I'll click install. And from here, this may take as long as 20, 30 minutes, depending upon how fast or slow your machine is. It might even take a little longer than that. So just walk away, go do something else for a little while and come back when it's done. Once it's done installing, you'll get this familiar dialog saying it's finished, and I'll click finish. But we're still not done, because once we finish installing the software, we need to authorize it. We need to install our license. And it's not like you type a key like you're used to with other software or just load a file. There's a lot more to it. And there are slight instructions that Esri gives you on the web page that you loaded before with your license information and in the email they'll send you, but I think it misses a few pieces. So let's go through it here. To start with, the type of license you have is an advanced single-use license. So click that, and all of a sudden this item number 2 down here, launch the authorization wizard, becomes available for you to use. So you can click authorize now, and a dialog will pop up. And there are a few options here, but what we have going is that we have installed our software and we need to authorize it. So we need to click next, and we'll authorize now using the internet. If you have a different way that you need to do it, you can, but I'm going to go through this method here. And here's where we need to put all that information in that we put in earlier. So I will put that in now, and then I'll click next. And once I'm done filling in that information, I'll get this screen here asking for my organization, my industry, information about myself. This is just for Esri's information on who's using the software. It's not to validate your license anymore. So I'll put mine. Click next. And once again, it's asking for that authorization code. So I'll put that in here and click next. And in this case, we're going to click, I do not want to authorize any extensions at this time. What's going to happen here is this authorization code is going to download a whole lot of other information. We don't have separate authorization codes for these. So once it downloads that information, it's going to authorize a lot of these extensions for us anyways, at least the ones we'll need. So I'm going to click, I do not want to authorize any extensions at this time, and click next. And it's going to offer to give you a trial. Don't ask for the trial. It's going to authorize them anyway, as I said. Click next. And it's going to look up some information with Esri on the internet and eventually come back and tell us everything's authorized. Okay, and when it's done, it'll say, congratulations, your software is authorized and ready for use. And I'll click finish. And it pops up ArcGIS Administrator. We don't have to do anything in here anymore, but just to verify that our license is installed, I'm going to click this Availability tab. And it tells me what licenses I have and which ones are authorized. And I can see that those extensions like Spatial Analyst are in fact authorized, and I can see when they expire. And at this point, I have ArcGIS installed and licensed, and I can open it up if I want to. And it goes through initializing license. And once it gets past there, I know that my license is working. So that's it for this lesson. In this lesson, I showed you how to obtain your authorization code for this course, how to download the software and create your account, and how to install that license for ArcGIS so that you can get it up and running. Thanks very much. See you next time.